everyone, it's Cindy. I'm here today because I want to share with you a fun page that I want to make for this journal for Terry and the caterpillars here. So what I want to do is I want to have this like floating moth kind of page. So let me set the journal aside, and I'm going to need a couple things. So one is one of my pieces of dyed foolscap paper and a little piece of acetate and my watercolors, and you could use whatever kind of cardstock, watercolor paper, whatever you like, something with a little bit of body, some stamps. In this case I'm using moths rather than butterflies, and I'm just going to do one of these. So I'll just choose one stamp here, move the rest off to the side. I will plunk it on my block and grab my archival ink. So I just want to stamp a couple of these moths. Did I get enough ink on there? Just double check. 1, 2. And so I'm just, I'm actually going to do a third one. I think I missed the bottom on that one. That's better. Much better. Okay. So I'm only going to do one because I've already done a little bit of prep ahead of time so that I could make this a quick little tutorial kind of video. Where did I take you from? Right there. Okay. Set those aside for a moment. All right, so then what I want to do is I wanted to color these lovely moths in a little bit. So I'm just going to use my beam paints here. Whoops, where I left my paintbrush sitting on them, silly me. Hold on. Okay, so let me grab my paints, and I'm just going to give them a spritz with some water here. Just need to move them over so I get all of them, because I don't know what color I want to use yet on this moth. Just give them a little spritz. Okay. So I think maybe I might go with a bit of gold on top of the leaf. Oh yeah, that's the one that I don't want to use. We'll say no to you. Okay. Klutzy fingers today. Okay. Yeah, a little bit of gold in the top wings. Just going to kind of fill it in how I'd like it to, you know, kind of look a little bit like a normal moth wing that's a little bit luminescent, kind of. This particular stamp is a little more filled in than the other ones that I was using a little earlier. Need more water. I forgot to grab my water. Okay, so just simply then do the other one the same. Hoping that it's a little cooler outside. I really want to go outside this afternoon and take a walk, but it's been pretty warm. I also need to harvest some tomatoes because my garden is just so full of cherry tomatoes. I'm going to give some to my neighbor. Using a little bit of a teal and leaving the gold that was on the brush in the teal, so it's giving it a really pretty sort of two-tone shade. Okay, so that's done. So just set my brush aside so I can clean it. move my paints out of the way here. Okay, so this just needs to dry a little bit. Okay, so then we're going to focus on folding and cutting a piece of paper that's going to fit my journal the way that I want it to. So what I'm trying to do here, I'll show you a preview, okay? So what we're going to make with these is actually, let me grab one that has more color so you can see this. You see this clear piece of acetate here? I want to have a moth on either side and have it floating. Then I want to create about 4 or 5 of them, trap them in here, glue this together, and then glue it down to a page in my journal so that I have these kind of moths that just sort of flop like this as we turn the page. Okay, so I just need to think how I want to do this. I'm thinking, all right, you know what, I should show you how I created that shape first with that page. So I'm using a piece of foolscap, but you don't have to. That's just what I recently dyed for this journal. So I'm just going to fold it in half. And then I need a ruler so that I can grab a 1-inch section here. And then I'm just going to fold the paper back. Flip it over. Do the same thing on this side. Okay. And then you'll have that. So you've got this 1-inch section like that, right? So then over here, what you need to do is you need to measure it for the width of your book. So like how wide would you want your paper to go to fit in the book? So I've already done one here that I've measured, and I just basically will do this one the same way and just tear it. Okay. Now what I will do is hold this back for a moment here. Okay. Now we want to take this 1-inch and we want to make it a 1/2 inch on either side, roughly. Use your ruler again to create those 2 folds down the center of that little folded section that you had, okay? So you should now have 4 lines here. Okay, so see the 4 lines? So then we're going to create 2 spots where we want to be able to trap these butterflies. And then we want to be able to fold the paper over as well. Okay. Or I may actually just use 1 fold and then do it this way and trap them on either side of that. Or I could make I could do like a little snip inside there. I'm just thinking, I haven't done a prototype. I'm just thinking about how I can keep as much of the paper as I, you know what, hold on. I'm going to grab another piece of paper. I just realized I can make this page wider. I don't need to cut it down at all because you lose a bit of your, like you lose an inch, right? So if I don't even need to use a ruler actually, because I'm just going to create a fold here and then do the same thing here. Okay. So there we go. We've got our fold Just kind of make it even. Just make sure you're even all the way down. Good. And then, okay, so does that make sense? So you have a whole foolscap sheet, and I've just done this. That's all I've done. Now I'm going to trap the butterflies in here. But first I'll show you how to make the butterfly. So I have this little scrap of acetate here. This is just from a piece of packaging. So then just cut a strip like this, okay? Well, this one's got a little mark on it. I'm gonna get rid of that one and cut another one. There, that's better. So see, it's just a little strip of acetate. Now you're going to come up and cut out your 2 butterflies. Get this out of here. And then just snip around them. Sorry for changing my plan there on my paper. I just thought about how I could have a larger sheet. The other one would have been a little skinny. I've been planning to use it as a center in the journal, so it would have been fine if it were a smaller piece, but I thought, hey, I can have it be a little bigger, then that's fine. Okay, so then I'll bring these 2 together and just sort of hold them together and try to sort of match up a little bit the shape. It doesn't have to be perfect, it really doesn't. One other way of doing this, but I didn't feel like pulling out all my stuff, is Stampin' Up! Has butterfly, a stamp and die set, so you'd have like completely perfect, you know, shapes to do this with. But I wanted to do it this way. I do have that set. I wanted to do it this way though, because I think it makes it slightly more accessible to everyone. Like if you don't have those stamps and dies, this is still like a fun way to do this. And then just kind of come in a little more as you'd like to, cut away the white. I'm using a thicker paper. You don't have to. I just wanted to. The thicker paper does make it a little harder. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to use 3-in-1 glue. And I'm just going to cover this one surface here as soon as the glue comes down to the bottom of the bottle. Okay, so just cover that. Then plunk your acetate down with in the center with about like, you know, about a 1/2 inch. Like put it up so it's not sticking out, but like put as much of it on there as you can. And then just put a little more 3-in-1 on top of the acetate. And just stick down the other side of the butterfly here. Whoops, get this tape out of the way. Move up a little so you can see if you... I'm just kind of giving it a few presses, and then I'll just set this one aside to just dry. Then I will ink around the edges once it's all kind of cleaned up. So let me grab the ones that I already finished, all painted with watercolors, so they're lots of fun. Okay, so I will now grab my ink and just kind of ink up the white a bit to make it less loud. It also forgives any uneven edges a little more than if they were just left white. And this paint is iridescent, so it's really beautiful. All right, inked. Okay, so now where we want to trap these is inside this gap. So this is the stage where you're just going to first lay them down, and you'll decide how you want to lay out your butterflies. I think actually I'll start at the bottom. This one, and this is where you can decide the length. So you don't want them to all be the same length. So snap your acetate down. And maybe try to like mix up the colors, you know, next to each other. And I'll shorten this one. And I think 4 will be good for this page. I'm going to make more than one page of these, I think. So again, I would recommend using 3-in-1 glue on the acetate itself. So just at the bottom on both sides, use your 3-in-1 glue. Lay that down, and I'll make it a little neater in a second. I'm just going to get all the 3-in-1 done. Okay. Alrighty, so now we just lay that in there. Perfect. Now, stand that up a bit. Just making sure that they're relatively, you know, even. And then I'm going to go with art glitter glue, and I'm just going to go right down the surface of like the paper so that we also glue all this paper together, this seam. Okay, so you'll see now this center seam is going to come in and close. A little bit of excess glue. I knew I was using a little too much. It's okay. We'll just get it out. And then I'll fix that butterfly. Let me just tip her back in there. Pull this back up for 1 second. I know this art glitter glue does not like to come apart again. There we go. Phew, I did it just in time. Art glitter glue is an incredible glue. Okay, so then we've got that glued down. Put my pins back in my glue and get them out of the way for a second here. Okay. Then we come back here, close this. Just give it a press on either side. Now what you're going to have is this. So when you flip the page of the journal, you're going to have this. Now what you have to do is, so behind the seam, right, we've got an awful lot of excess paper. So what I'm going to do is, and there's a few options. You could actually just snip it down a little more if you wanted. Keep in mind that I'm using this as the center of the signature. So it doesn't need to be, like sometimes when you use a fly paper that has a piece of paper like this on it, you know, you can only really use it in the center of a journal, or it would be too bulky to be able to stitch through, right? So you have a couple options. One, you can just fold it down like so onto the page like that, so that, you know, it's just an extra flap of paper. Or you could glue something else to it to be an additional page, like a flip kind of page. I'm trying to decide what I want to do. I think I may just glue it down. You could also add it like a little tuck. You could add a little more paper to it and then glue that down like a little tuck spot, which would be very cute. So I think for me though, I'm just going to glue it right down on the page, just to keep it simple kind of idea. There we go. That's just a cute little seam, and yeah, and you could, you know, if you were bothered by that in some way, you could put a piece of ribbon or whatever, but I'm totally fine with it. I think it's cute. So there we go. And then what I can do is come back to the journal. So I left the page long, if you remember, I was talking about that. I think I want to put this in the center signature, so I'll grab that signature out. and lay it down, open it to the center, plunk it in, and then I can check my size. So I didn't fully trim this paper down, so I need to lose about 1 inch here and about just a tiny minuscule little amount at the top. So I will trim that. Okay, so I'll just line this up here. I'll just make a little mark where that needs to be. And then the same up here. Actually, that's pretty good. I don't need to really trim that now that I look at it. So I just have to make sure I'm not in the ripping zone of my butterflies. I don't think I am though. And then we come back and just tear off that excess paper. And there they are. And then we'll plunk this in the middle of the field guide page here. And there we go. So now you have some fun little surprise moths in the middle. So I hope you enjoyed that little tutorial, that little bit of moths. And that's it for me for now. And hopefully you make some of these little flutteries yourself. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.